Hey there, welcome back. I am here today, and I'm so glad that you clicked on this video because I have a really fun idea that I want to put to the test. The idea is, what if I could be someone else? Just someone else for an entire day. No one recognizing me, no expectations, just a whole new identity. I've seen people do this online. There are like videos of people going to a Starbucks and creating a fake identity, and the baristas just go along with it. They don't question it at all. So I thought, why don't I just try this and not just do it in one place, but throughout an entire day and see what happens. So today I'm putting it to the test. For the next 24 hours, I'm faking my identity and nobody will know. I did something similar about 2 years ago where I went to New York City and pretended that I knew someone that got me into a lot of funny situations, and that video ended up being my most popular video ever. So I thought, let's try something similar, but let's amp it up, change the stakes, try something that little bit more daring. So that's what we're doing today. So the first part of this was to create a brand new persona and bringing that persona to life. I figured out a name, a backstory, a look and feel for this character, and I chose the name Eleanor Bishop. I decided she was a freelance photographer, originally from Oregon. She lives in Portland now. She travels a lot. She's currently in between assignments. So while I was doing this exercise, she was traveling through Colorado, and that's how I landed on the fact that I would say that I was a freelance photographer. So that's what I created. So I picked out an outfit to match this person's vibe and personality. I made sure that it was kind of outdoorsy but also trendy. So I chose a pair of dark wash jeans. I grabbed a collared shirt, an oatmeal-colored sweater, a beige trench coat, and then for accessories I chose a pair of brown leather boots, a canvas tote bag, some circular framed glasses, and a wool felt fedora. So I put together this outfit, and I looked in the mirror, and I thought, yeah, that's pretty good. That's Eleanor Bishop. Now it was time to bring her to life. The first order of business was to make a fake ID card. I found an old library card template online, and I filled it out for Eleanor Bishop. I think it looks pretty legit. I printed it out, laminated it, and I cut it to the exact same size and dimensions of my actual driver's license. Next, I needed a photo of myself that I could use as Eleanor's picture. I wanted to choose a photo that didn't really look like me. I wanted it to be kind of unassuming so that people wouldn't have any suspicions. So I found this photo of myself that I took in Golden Gate Park, and I think it worked perfectly. It matched Eleanor's vibe, and it didn't look too much like myself. So I cropped it, I edited, and I printed it out. I put the photo on the library card, and boom, I think that's pretty convincing. The next step was to create some plausible backstory details. I thought about what might come up if somebody was to ask Eleanor a few questions about herself. If someone asked where she was from, I thought I'd say that I'm from Portland, Oregon, but I was visiting family in Denver. If someone asked what I was doing in town, I said that I am a photographer and I'm taking photos of buildings and landscapes and architecture and stuff like that. That sounded pretty good, so I had those details ready to go. And I also thought that I would say that I was in between assignments and that I was also traveling around Colorado for a little bit. So that's what I came up with. Next, I wrote down some things to help me get into character and embody this new persona. So I wrote down like actions and behaviors that Eleanor might exhibit. So I wrote down wear glasses, fidget with the strap of my bag, look observant, speak slowly and deliberately, ask lots of questions, right? Things that are just gonna help me stay in character and make this believable. And then I taped these reminders all around my house so that I would see them throughout the day and just remind myself to stay in character. And then finally, I figured out what I was gonna wear. Like I mentioned before, I chose a pair of dark wash jeans, an oatmeal-colored sweater, a beige trench coat, brown leather boots, a canvas tote bag, circular framed glasses, and a wool felt fedora. So I put everything together. I looked in the mirror and I thought, yeah, I think that's gonna work. And then it was time to start the experiment. The goal was to be someone else for 24 hours and nobody will know. So the first part was to get out of the house and start interacting with the world as this new person. So I started with something simple, grabbing a coffee at the local coffee shop. I got in line and I walked up to the counter and I said, "Hi, can I get a medium coffee, please?" And the barista responded, "Yeah, sure. What kind of coffee would you like?" And this is where I had to start thinking like Eleanor Bishop. So I paused for a second and I thought, okay, this is Eleanor Bishop. You're in Denver, right? And you're an outdoorsy type person, right? You're a photographer. You're probably familiar with Stumptown Coffee Roasters. That's a company based out of Portland, Oregon. And I think Eleanor would definitely drink Stumptown coffee. So I said, "Oh, I'll have a medium Stumptown, please." And the barista said, "Sure, we have Hairbender, we have the Holler, we have the Ruby." And I actually hadn't looked at the menu before. I didn't have my phone, so I just kind of paused for a second, and I thought, all right, this is Eleanor Bishop. You're a photographer, right? I'll go with Hairbender. I think that sounds really cool. So I said, "Yeah, a medium Hairbender, please." And the barista rang me up and he said, "All right, that'll be $3.75. So I handed him a $5 bill and I said, "Keep the change." And he said, "Thanks, here's your receipt." And then he started making my coffee. And then once my coffee was ready, he handed it to me and he said, "Would you like cream or sugar?" And I said, "Oh, actually, could you just write on the cup? Just write on the cup Bishop, like B-I-S-H-O-P. So he did that, and he handed me my coffee, and I said, "Thank you very much." And then I stepped aside to wait for my coffee to cool down a little bit. And then I walked away. And as I was walking away, I thought, okay, that was close. Like I got through that interaction. But the hardest part is coming up with the backstory details on the fly, right? So I started thinking, all right, if someone asks me where I'm from, what am I going to say? I guess I'm from Portland, right? Because I was traveling through Denver. Okay, what if someone asks me what I do? I'm a photographer, right? All right, I think I can do this. So I continued on my way feeling pretty confident. The rest of the day continued in a similar fashion. I went to the mall. I went to the grocery store. I walked around the neighborhood. Throughout the day, I kept having these close calls where I almost got caught, right? At one point, I ran into a friend of mine who I hadn't seen in a while, and he said, "Hey, what's up? How have you been?" And I just froze, right? And I was like, oh my gosh, what do I say? What do I say? I couldn't tell him that I was pretending to be someone else, so I just kind of stumbled over my words and I said, I'm doing good. Hanging out, having a good time. And he said, "Oh, that's cool. Well, I gotta run, but it was nice seeing you again. Bye." And he walked away, and I let out this big sigh of relief, and I thought, okay, I made it. That was close. Throughout the day, I kept forgetting that I wasn't myself, and I kept reverting back to my natural way of speaking, and I kept acting like myself. So it was really hard to stay in character. But I was committed to this experiment, and I didn't want to mess it up. So I kept reminding myself to slow down my speech, to be more observant, to ask more questions. As the day wore on, I started to feel a little bit exhausted, and I started to feel like giving up. But I knew that I had to keep going if I wanted to make it 24 hours. So I pushed through and I didn't give up, and eventually the day came to an end. And as I sat there reflecting on the day, I realized that I had done it. I had successfully faked my identity for 24 hours, and nobody had known. When I told my friends what I had done, their reactions were priceless. They were shocked and surprised, and some of them even thought it was hilarious. So I wanted to share this experience with you guys because I think it is so fascinating to think about how easy it is to create a new identity and how hard it is to maintain it. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope it gave you a little bit of insight into what it might be like to be someone else for a day. If you liked this video, please give it a thumbs up. And if you want to see more content like this, please subscribe. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.